Welcome to South Florida, my hometown.
Thank you for
I
having
understand
us.
last night you had a great time out in Coral Gables, amazing city. Let's talk about your club, NYCFC. You're celebrating your 10th anniversary this year. I'm not sure everyone knows about the history of your club, so why don't you tell us a little bit about NYCFC and what makes it very special?
So many of you in this room have probably worked with or a fan of a club that has over 100 years of history. We launched 10 years ago in 2015. We are the professional team in New York City, the only MLS team that plays in the 5 boroughs of New York City. We are owned by City Football Group, who also owns our sister club, Manchester City, and owns and operates about 11 other clubs around the world. The New York Yankees, and Marcelo Claure, who is also owner of our sister clubs, Bolivar and Girona. In our very short 10 years in MLS, we won an MLS Cup in 2021, which is almost unheard of for a club that young to, in our 7th season, to have won that award. And I think that in the very short time we've been in existence, we've been in the playoffs 8 years out of 9. We've been very consistent in MLS in terms of high-level quality on the pitch. And as a business, we've been, playing in baseball stadiums for 10 years and looking for a home of our own in New York City. And just in past December, broke ground on our new stadium, Etihad Park, which will be in Queens, New York.
Let's talk about the stadium a little bit, because I really do feel that's one of the revelations, not just for your club, but for Major League Soccer. As a person who has been working with Major League Soccer for almost 30 years, I know how much we wanted to have a stadium in New York proper. Tell us a little more. This is the stadium images that you're seeing behind us. What makes the location special? How big is it going to be? And what are your expectations for the venue beyond playing your home matches?
So, as you can imagine, playing soccer in baseball stadiums is less than ideal from a business perspective, from a player and coach perspective, and from a fan experience perspective. The best seats for baseball are the worst for soccer. The sight lines are not great. And yet, over the last 10 years, we've built up a very loyal fan base who has followed us from venue to venue and has been with us every step of the way. New York City is a very difficult, challenging place from a real estate perspective, to find available land for what we would need. It's a very political, community-driven city. And so the search to find the land for our stadium has taken us 10 years, but we've landed in Queens, which is one of the 5 boroughs. And the things in New York that are a challenge for us are also our greatest opportunities and our greatest strengths. So New York has over 8 million people. We have 13 professional sports teams in New York and countless other entertainment options that we're fighting, against. But that means we have more soccer fans in New York than anywhere else. We have more Spanish speakers in New York than anywhere else. We have a population that has soccer in their blood and in their DNA, and in particular in Queens. In Queens, New York, it is the most diverse borough of New York, and New York City is one of the most diverse cities in the world. And so that means we have a built-in population of soccer fans already in existence, many of whom, follow their teams back home in South America or Latin America, the UK, Europe, other parts of the world. And so for us, it's about being their team in New York. Queens has over 200 ethnicities and cultures that are represented, the food that is represented in Queens. All of these things are great strengths for us. And so we're also located directly across the street from Citi Field, where the New York Mets play in their baseball stadium. The USTA, the U.S. Tennis Association, is right down the street from us. We have great public transportation, great highways, and so we're in a wonderful location that makes it very easy for people to get to us, whether you're coming from Manhattan, the other boroughs, or the suburbs around New York. I think that when we think about this building, it's not just a building for us, it's a home for our team, it's also a home for our community, and we're very focused on community at New York City, at City Football Club, and everything that we do, we look through the lens of our community. And so this is a 25,000 seat stadium. It will be the first all-electric building in Major League Soccer, the first all-electric building in New York City. And sustainability is a very important part of this building for us. So the area that we are building is an area called Willets Point. It has been desolate land that has been subject to environmental degradation for decades. And so what we're actually doing is building the first new neighborhood in New York City in 40 years. It's not just a stadium. It is, New York is in the middle of a housing crisis right now. And so this development partner of ours, Queens Development Group, is also building 2,500 units of affordable housing, a new school, a new public school, a new hotel, retail options. And so this is a brand new neighborhood that we're creating that we are getting to be a part of. When we went through the design process and selection for an architect for our building, we wanted very much that this building wouldn't compete with the neighborhood, but would look as if it grew up with the neighborhood, much like many of the other, football clubs that were built around the rest of the world grew up in communities in South America and UK and Europe, and that's the feel that we wanted our building to have. And so our architect designed this building to sit on the New York City grid. It looks like it is just meant to be a part of this community. And we're really excited about what that means for the local impact that we'll have. We're 100% financing this by ourselves. This does not take any taxpayer dollars to build the stadium. It's 100% union constructed, which was really important to us. It's important to us that the people who live and work around this stadium and this neighborhood are part of building the stadium and part of operating this stadium for us. And so that was a big point for us. But we want this to be a very busy building, and not just for our home games. We would love to have a women's soccer team playing in there. We have the ability to have concerts. We have the ability to host other U.S. sports like lacrosse or rugby or even American football. But we want very much for this first and foremost to be a cathedral of soccer. We want Etihad Park to be known in the same breath as some of the other iconic venues that you would go visit in the U.S. and other parts of the world if you're a soccer fan. And so we see this as a building that will easily, be on the rotation for U.S. men's and women's national team games, but international soccer friendlies. I can see so many clubs in South America and other parts of the world who come to the U.S. to play friendlies. And this is a perfect venue because of not just the size and the design, which is meant to be a very intimate feeling building, to keep in that passion, that noise, that excitement, but also because of the population that we have in New York. We have so many Spanish-speaking first generation, second generation, third generation fans. And so to be able to say we have Ecuador or Bolivia or any other, Colombia, these countries that can come, bring their national teams or their clubs to play, I think this is going to be a building that really does attract a lot of that global soccer, family to come to play matches in our stadium.
Now, Jennifer, the stadium's coming in 2027 at the heels of the Club World Cup and the World Cup being played in New York, both finals in New York City. How do you hope the two World Cups will affect the club, maybe even the building of the stadium and Major League Soccer in general?
So again, when you think about the growth of the game here in the United States, it's very different from, the rest of the world, where you have over 100, 200 years of history of the game. It's grown differently here in the U.S. Major League Soccer is 30 years old, and so when you put it into that perspective, I think there's a lot of people who will say, we're not at that same level as other leagues in the rest of the world, and to that I would say it takes time. It takes time to develop. It takes time for that growth and that success to happen. But what you have now in the U.S. is a generational and cultural shift that has taken place over time. When I was growing up, and I'm a child of immigrants as well, my family came to the U.S. and they were all soccer fans, but there wasn't a professional, league or teams here that we could really grow up with. My children are now growing up. Not only are they massive fans of the game as players, but they can follow the game all around the world. And they are smart enough and savvy enough to know that they can be fans of, different teams, different players. They're wearing jerseys of Mexico because it's a cool jersey, not because they have any connection to Mexico, but they appreciate it, and they appreciate the game around the world. And so you have a generation of children now that in the US, it is the largest participation sport, bigger than baseball, bigger than basketball. Every child grows up playing soccer. They are the children of parents who grew up playing soccer. And so now it is becoming more and more a part of the American fabric of sports. But you also have so many people from other parts of the world who have brought the game here, and so it is in the DNA and blood of so many Americans. And I think when you start to look at it through that lens, and you start to look at the growth of MLS over the last 30 years as a business, but also on the pitch, the investment that you're seeing in soccer-specific stadiums, not just here in New York, but also in LA and in Nashville and Cincinnati and all these other cities that have now come online and are seeing themselves as true soccer markets. You start to see more of the investment, the dollars that are going into it from businesses, from sponsors, from partners and vendors and people who really are aligning with soccer as a business. You start to see these changes, and you also see the investment that we as MLS clubs are making in our academies. And the ability to now develop top talent in the US that is going to play in other markets, that is going to play in Europe, that's going to play in the UK, and we've had that even with in our short 10 years, players like Jack Harrison and Christian McFarland, who just came out of a homegrown player out of our academy, who is now going to Manchester City to play. And you see more and more of that coming out of MLS. And so we see that aligning with the Club World Cup and the interest around those games, and World Cup and the excitement that is there. That's where you start to see the businesses really starting conversations we probably couldn't have had with businesses 5-10 years ago, that now we've got all of these inbound calls because people are looking, sponsors are looking, partners are looking to be aligned with us and be part of this growth and this opportunity. And there's something really exciting about it. I've worked for many leagues over the years. I've worked for the NFL and Arena Football League and others. You do not feel as impactful as you do working in soccer. There's an excitement and an energy around the growth of this game that I think is unmatched in other US sports.
One of the things that makes your club very unique and that it gives you a global perspective is that you are part of City Football Group. How has that been an advantage in the building of your club?
So I think that there's two ways that I think we see that as an advantage. One is on the business side, certainly, but one is also on the player development side. I think, and I tell people all the time, I think we have the best of both worlds being a part of this global network. Particularly from a business perspective, when we're talking about the stadium and other things, we have a built-in network of global colleagues around the world who have built stadiums, have built training facilities, are operating those businesses that we can draw upon for that expertise. And so there's no shortage of colleagues and people that we can reach out to, and certainly that we have weekly, monthly, biweekly calls with all the time. From a player perspective, and a player scouting network, it's hugely beneficial for us to have that resource. And I think we in New York are at an advantage because of that. And I think our consistency on the pitch is also a direct result of that. We have scouts all over the world. We have that network all over the world. And we have players that we've seen come through our system. Tate Castellanos is a perfect example in New York. He started with one of our sister clubs in Uruguay, developed with them, came to us in New York, helped us win the MLS Cup in 21, was the Golden Boot winner, and then went on loan to one of our sister clubs, Girona, showed that he could play at a high level, and is now at Lazio in Italy. And it's watching him in Serie A is amazing. He's actually going to be in New York tonight at our game tonight with us, and it's exciting to see a player like that develop through our system. And so I think that's one of the greatest benefits that we have as a multi-club system that is still able to, by the way, independently operate our business day to day, but glean upon all of those lessons that are learned and best practices that are learned throughout the group.
We have a couple of minutes left. I know you have to catch a flight back to New York. You have a game tonight. What would you say, in conclusion, is the thing that maybe as a club you're most proud of what you've been able to do in only 10 years? Some of these clubs that we're talking about have been around for more than 100, but you've been around for just 10 years. what would you say are the top accomplishments that the club has had in those 10 years?
I think one of the things beyond our success on the pitch, one of the things we're most proud of is our work in the community. And one of the things we learned in New York when you are trying to fight through all of the noise and you're competing for sports dollars and entertainment dollars and trying to build a fan base is that if you can win the hearts of the community and you can use your soccer platform for a greater good, then you will come out on top all the time. And so before we launched City in the Community as our foundation, and it provides free soccer programming to kids all across the 5 boroughs. We've served over 50,000 kids in our programs, introducing soccer to some, bringing access and safe places for them to play. And some of these kids, it's the one moment of their day where you can see a connection, right? A smile. They may not all speak the same language, but they speak the same language of soccer, which is exciting to see. We've also built over 50 mini pitches across the 5 boroughs of New York where green space is at a minimum to allow these kids to play. We've made a further commitment to build another 26 before the World Cup comes in 2026. And I think those are some of the things that have helped us to build a really strong fan base, a network of partners who are dedicated to the club and are going to be with us for a very long time. And I think we do it very differently than any other professional sports team does, and that's a direct result of how City Football Group approaches every project that they do across the world. And so I would say that's a lesson to be learned for anybody who's looking to, penetrate the U.S. market, to build in some of these football cities. That if you can use a grassroots approach and you can get the youth and you can get the community to be on board with you, that's the best way to build your network and to build the growth of a fan base.
Jennifer, muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Let's give Jennifer a big hand.
Thank you.